Let's face it, your finances are likely to remain a mess. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. Even if you do everything right, save, invest, watch finance shows, and are born in a country with opportunities, your chances of making it big are slim. The top 1% is just that, 1% of the population. So why don't we hear this reality check more? Well, it's not as fun as the fantasy sold by finance gurus. It's more appealing to believe that managing real estate or using credit cards wisely will make us rich, but that's not always the case. So, let's dig into why getting your finances in perfect order might just be a myth. Understanding the millionaire mindset. Ever wonder what sets the rich apart from the rest of us? The millionaire next door spills the beans. And it's not about flashy cars or fancy homes. Nope, it's about how they handle their dough. Imagine two types of wealthy folks. On one side, you've got the underaccumulators of wealth, UAWs, who might be doing well but aren't stacking up as much as they could. Then, there are the prodigious accumulators of wealth, PAWs, the real heavy hitters in the money game. Now, how do you tell which camp you're in? The authors cooked up a simple recipe. Take your age, multiply it by your annual earnings, and then multiply that by 10%. For example, if you're 50 and making $100K a year, your expected net worth would be $500,000. If you're above that, congrats, you're a PAW. Below, you might need to step up your game. Seems straightforward, right? Well, not so fast. Imagine a fresh college graduate pulling in 50 grand annually. According to this formula, they should already be sitting on over 100K in savings. That's a bit optimistic, wouldn't you say? The authors themselves admitted this method isn't perfect, especially for young guns just starting. But here's the kicker. This formula doesn't capture the whole picture of financial success. It's more like a snapshot of where you stand at a certain point. Real wealth building takes time, strategy, and sometimes a bit of luck. Think about it this way. Imagine you're baking a cake. Sure, you can follow a recipe to the letter, but that doesn't guarantee a masterpiece. You might need to adjust the ingredients, try different techniques, and be patient while it bakes. It's the same with money. You've got to mix the right ingredients and give it time to rise. In The Millionaire Next Door, the big idea is that millionaires are just regular folks like you and me, maybe even your next door neighbor. They're not flashy or showy, they're just good at saving money. Think about it. How often do you see someone who looks like they're loaded, only to find out they're actually drowning in debt? That's the kind of misconception this book busts wide open. Imagine you're living in a neighborhood where most people work regular jobs, drive average cars, and don't splurge on fancy stuff. Suddenly, you realize that some of these seemingly ordinary folks are actually millionaires. It's mind-blowing, right? That's the reality this book reveals. That wealth isn't always about flaunting expensive toys, it's about smart financial habits. Now, let's talk about the authors, Thomas Stanley and William Denko. These guys are armed with data and insights that can save you from money traps. They define a millionaire as someone who has $1 million in assets, excluding their main home. That's a game changer because it shows that wealth isn't just about the size of your paycheck, it's about what you do with what you've got. But here's a twist. Despite all this wisdom, there's a voice of skepticism. Enter Nassim Taleb, a finance guru who questions the book's approach. He argues that the survey method used by Stanley and Denko could be misleading. If you ask a bunch of people in a typical neighborhood about their lives, chances are most of them will be from blue-collar areas and drive common cars like the Ford F-150. It's not because they're all secret millionaires, it's just that these are the everyday realities for many folks. Taleb suggests a different approach. Instead of casting a wide net, focus on the specific suburbs where millionaires thrive, the cars they drive, and the jobs that lead to wealth. That way, you get a clearer picture of what truly sets millionaires apart. It's a valid point that adds depth to the discussion, rethinking the definition of rich. It's true that there are more millionaire plumbers than millionaire surgeons, but that's largely because there are simply more plumbers overall. However, if your goal is to reach millionaire status, pursuing a career as a surgeon might give you a better shot. Surgeons typically command higher salaries and have the potential for significant wealth accumulation over time. Now, about the book's message that anyone can get rich through financial discipline, while it's a nice thought, it's not entirely accurate. The definition of rich can vary widely depending on who you ask. A net worth of $1 million, excluding your primary residence, is definitely respectable, especially considering the era when The Millionaire Next Door was first published in 1996. However, critics argue that this doesn't necessarily make someone rich in the true sense of the word. Let's talk about the 4% rule. This rule stems from the Trinity Study, a famous research project that analyzed investment portfolios to determine a safe withdrawal rate. The idea is that if you have a well-diversified portfolio, you can withdraw around 4% of its value each year without significantly depleting the principal amount. This rule is crucial for retirees or those relying on passive income from investments. Here's where it gets interesting. If you're living off the passive income generated by $1 million portfolio following the 4% rule, you'd have an annual income of around $40,000. While that's a solid income, especially if you've already paid off major expenses like housing, it may not be considered rich in today's standards, especially in certain high-cost areas. Earning $40,000 a year sounds like a decent sum, right? But is it rich? Well, let's dive into that. Imagine you've paid off your house. That's a weight off your shoulders for sure. You can relax a bit, especially if you're not in one of those crazy expensive areas. You know, the kind where even a cup of coffee can cost an arm and a leg. But here's the catch. You'll still need to make some sacrifices, no matter where you live. It's the reality of life, especially here in the US. Sure, some folks might pack up and move to a cheaper spot, pinching pennies to squirrel away $1 million for retirement. Sounds like a plan, right? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. You might have heard of The Millionaires Next Door. It's a catchy phrase, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Sure, some of them got there through sheer thriftiness, not by raking in fat paychecks. But here's the thing. Nassim Taleb pointed out, that idea came from a book in the 90s, based on a survey from that era. Times change, my friend. Think about those prolonged downturns, like back in 1935 or 1982. They shake things up big time. Suddenly, it's not just about how much you save, it's about what you earn and how smart you are with your money. High earners have a leg up during these tough times. They swoop in when asset prices are low, scooping up bargains left and right. Average folks, they're more likely to feel the pinch during downturns. Jobs get shaky, bills pile up, and saving becomes a luxury. It's not a level playing field, that's for sure. So, is 40 grand a year rich? It depends. If you're savvy with your money, living within your means, and maybe catching a break or two from the market, you might just find yourself in a comfortable spot. But let's not forget, wealth isn't just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about security, peace of mind, and knowing you're ready for whatever life throws your way. The high-income reality. Let's talk about something we often overlook, the simple truth about getting rich. It's not just about saving every penny or finding secret shortcuts. The inconvenient truth is, if you want to build serious wealth, having a high income is crucial. Now, why don't we hear this more often? Well, it's not the most glamorous message, is it? Imagine a personal finance YouTube channel suddenly saying, "Hey, you need a 6-figure income to really make this work." They'd probably lose a big chunk of their audience right there. People are more drawn to stories like The Millionaire Next Door, not the millionaire in some fancy neighborhood. Think about it. Who wants to buy a course on building wealth through a long, steady career in medicine? It's not the stuff of get-rich-quick dreams. We like to believe in the idea that anyone can become rich through sheer thrift and frugality. But let's be real, that's often just wishful thinking. Sure, books like The Millionaire Next Door can teach us valuable lessons about avoiding financial pitfalls. But let's reframe it a bit. Instead of dreaming about becoming the next millionaire, think of it as learning from the financially savvy couple next door. They might not be flashy, but they've got their finances sorted out. Now, here's the twist. Even if you're in a high-income career or running a successful business, it doesn't automatically mean your personal finances are in top shape. It's easy to get caught up in the earning part and forget about smart money management. You know, it's surprising how many folks with big paychecks end up in the same financial boat as folks with regular jobs. It all comes down to how we manage our money, and there are a few key reasons for this. First off, there's this thing called lifestyle inflation. Basically, as you get older and move up the career ladder, you usually start earning more dough. Makes sense, right? But here's the kicker. Instead of saving that extra cash, a lot of us start spending it on fancier stuff. Think about it. When you're in college or just starting out, sharing a house and driving a beat-up car is totally fine. But fast forward a bit. You've got a family, a job, and suddenly that shared house doesn't cut it anymore. You want your own place, a reliable car, maybe even some fancy suits for work. And if you snag a promotion, well, that just opens the door to even more spending. Bigger house, nicer car, maybe even a swanky vacation every year to make up for all those long hours at the office. Plus, if one person in the relationship focuses on work, the other might handle more of the home stuff, which could mean hiring help or a stay-at-home partner. Now, this isn't about blaming anyone, it's just how things often play out. Take investment bankers, for instance. They need to look sharp, live in pricey cities, and sometimes rely on extra help at home to juggle those crazy work hours. So, while it's tempting to think of lifestyle inflation as a personal failing, sometimes it's just the natural progression of life and work. Investment banking is where I've been in the trenches, but let me tell you, the same money sacrifices apply across the board. Whether you're diving into big tech, medicine, law, or starting your own gig, there's a financial toll to pay. And let's not forget the personal sacrifices that come with these paths. Nobody wakes up thinking, I can't wait to crunch numbers all day, or I'm thrilled about endless coding sessions. Nope, it's usually the fat paycheck that draws people in. We're chasing that dream of living large, having the means to enjoy life's luxuries. But that dream of financial freedom, it's not as glamorous as it seems. Even the wealthiest folks spend a good chunk of time worrying about money. It's like we're all on this perpetual financial roller coaster. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with our latest content.